here. Go ahead, bookmark this page, and thank me later, because what will happen? What this page offers is you buying a scent you really like, and not buying it again by accident from another artisan, so that you don't have a double. I mean, if you do it intentionally, that's fine. If you want all the soaps that smell like Creed Green Irish Tweed, that's also a way to use this list. You can scroll down and you see, Jared, this is you, right? And if people submit stuff, but otherwise you're adding things to this list.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't take credit for the idea. Someone had started. Well, there's a few of these lists floating around. There was one on Reddit for a while. There was one on one of the, might have been Badger and Blade or something like that. There's pieces of this kind of all over, but it wasn't an extensive list. It wasn't regularly updated. It had some conflicting things in it. And so I just wanted a spot I could kind of bring all that information together. So I stocked it with what I could find initially online. And then there, most of it is just me following like the different releases from the artisans. And when I see something that's popped up that the artisan says that this is a dupe, then I drop it on the list. There are some where I kind of find when it comes to dupes and artisans, there's kind of like three classifications it falls in. You'll have an artisan and they'll say, this is my homage to Aventus. And then it's really easy. You just put the soap and the artisan and the name.
Yeah.
There are others that will say, here's my soap that has these notes in it. And you take the notes and you put them into Google and you'll find out, oh, the notes are exactly the same as Creed Aventus. This is a Creed Aventus dupe. And then there's the third class that kind of drives me nuts is the artisans that will like change one note or leave a bunch of stuff out, and they're like, it's an Aventus dupe, but you won't know it until you buy it or someone tells you. And so that's those ones really bother me. And I've been bit by those before where I bought a soap and like, oh, this is another Aventus. I have an Aventus. I didn't need this. And so those ones kind of frustrate me. And that was part of the reason for this list is I want to start putting a collection together. Here's what's there. And then you won't buy the same soap by mistake. You'll know that I've done an Aventus already. I want to buy something from this artisan, but I don't need to buy their Aventus scent. I'll buy something else.
Right. Yeah, and we use that example, and it might be beating a dead horse, but guys, I'm still scrolling, and I'm still having Creed Aventus. Oh, okay, Creed Aventus cologne. It's similar, but it's a little different. And here's Green Irish Tweed, also very popular. Actually, that's more than I thought there were. Holy cow! Green Irish Tweed.
Good. Yeah. Shave of the day today. A good St. Patrick's Day shave.
Yes, I was gonna say it's a totally appropriate St. Patrick's Day shave. So maybe a lot of folks are using that today.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did want to dive a little deeper on one of the points you brought up, and that's when it's an undisclosed dupe over on the Discord. It's been called a ninja dupe because it's like sneaky. It's a sneaky dupe. And what do you think though? It's an artisan, because I know you can put in inspired but no affiliation with. I've seen like that kind of wording. But in my head, most of the times it's helpful to know if it's inspired by something. Like why do you think an artisan would choose, or go so far as to list the scent notes, but not go fully and list the inspiration?
Yeah, I think the artisans that list that are very clear, here's the scent notes, and it's a direct copy and paste from a Fragrantica or something like that. I think they're just a bit worried about throwing the name down, right? So I don't want Creed knocking on my door. I'm just gonna not put Creed in there and just not have that problem. So I think though, if they're really if they're making it very clear what all the notes are, I know some people will get upset saying those aren't notes, you're just using a fragrance oil, but that's not the point. They're trying to tell you what it smells like without telling you what it smells like.
Great point.
So I don't fault those. I get it. They don't want to have Dolce & Gabbana or a Creed or something at their door saying don't do that.
Okay.
Ones that where they leave out things, or they're talking about the essence of a scent without mentioning notes in a way that's like, well, you're just using somebody else's scent and making it look like you did it yourself, and it just doesn't sit right with me. If you're using somebody else's scent, I have no problems with that. Like I love scent dupes. I'm all for them. I've got lots of reasons why I like them. Especially when I have no wet shaving stores out my back door, so I can't. Everything I buy is a blind buy, so it's a way for me to try a scent before I have to buy it. Is I can go down to Shoppers Drug Mart and I can smell a scent and say, "Oh yeah, I like this. I'm going to buy the scent from Shoppers, and then I'm going to buy the matching soap and splash." So,
I see.
I can get down with that, but the ones that are like not real open about it, or they change one note to say, instead of saying it's a birch, they'll say woody notes.
Oh, I see.
So those ones are like,
fragrance dupes don't really kind of catch my attention anymore. But I think this actually, it's more, the more I think about it, it goes back to our previous, topic of the shaving collection. And it's just like, I'd probably just rather get a decant of, if it's inspired by scent, I almost rather do that. It takes up less space.
So I'm also a bit of a completionist. So
Okay.
When I buy, like I buy a soap, I buy the splash. Like no doubt, if I buy a soap, I'm buying the matching splash. It just happens. And so I like being able to buy a fragrance that matches the soap and splash. And so if I know that if I've got Green Irish Tweed in my fragrance collection, I'm excited that I can buy the soap and the splash, that I can use that morning before I put the fragrance on. So
I see. So like a trifecta, the trifecta scenario. Okay. Phil Wetshave says, I'm very happy to have an EDP of Timmerman Red from Holy Cow at that price point instead of buying a $400 frag from Initio. Which one? I guess I could look at the spreadsheet. I was going to say, what's Timmerman Red?
It won't be on the spreadsheet because
you don't
that one I don't I've never smelled it, and the notes don't. If memory serves, those don't line up with that.
Oh,
is it on the list?
You have it's side effect.
Yeah, someone must have convinced me. Holy Caw is one of those that they don't mention when they're a dupe, and the notes don't always line up, and you kind of need to take a bit of a guess. And I struggle with those, like, personally, because if I don't get my nose on them, like I'm guessing what someone tells me, maybe. So it's hard to put those ones on the list at times, unless it's someone I really trust. And that's probably how this one ended up on there. Is
trust Phil's there, yeah, for sure.
Probably told me about it, and I said, sure, I'll put it on the list.
Yeah, so that's Phil making, just proving there are some expensive fragrances, and I do like that. There's other folks I know, like I've mentioned before, First Line Shave, even Strike Gold Shave. I like the scents that they choose because they're going for discontinued or scents that are not covered by any other artisan. I appreciate that as well, especially Initio perfumes are wonderful. I cannot afford them.
I can't say I've used EDTs or EDPs from all the artisans, so I can't like make a universal statement, but the ones I've used are kind of, you can tell it's they have fragrance oil and they've added alcohol to it, and they spray it and now it's a EDT, but it's not made in the same way that's like from a real fragrance house. And so a lot of those ones, I find they're found wanting for me. There's some that they get, like, instead of like a fragrance roll-on that you can use, those are always cut with a different oil as well, like a carrier oil. And if you use those to make a spray, they're going to be dialed down. They don't perform the same way. But you can actually buy like just a concentrated fragrance that you can't use directly on skin. If you're using those and making EDTs and EDPs, you'll get a better result. And so those are a little more, I can get down with those a little bit better, but it's hard to know, right? Unless you know the artisan really well. It's hard to tell. So there's so many good clones on the fragrance market that chances are you find like a really good clone that's not necessarily from a shaving specialist that's their whole game is about making fragrances that smell as close to the original. And so those, I kind of, if I really want an expensive scent like a Tom Ford something or other, and I want a clone, that's the road I'll go versus a shaving artisan.
Yeah, and kind of related to that, it's like if you want to pick up, let's say you go for the soap first because it was a cheaper way to try it. But if
Mhm.
it's a dupe of a scent that's been around for a while, let's say like a Cool Water or Dracar Noir, like things that have been around for decades, and still have their fan bases,
Mhm.
it's often cheaper just to go to your local like they call it rack stores, or basically it's a Ross, a TJ Maxx, Marshalls, I think Shoppers for Canada, right?
Yeah.
It's probably or we have seen in some cases where it's cheaper to get it from the discounter than it is to
Mhm.
buy the artisan version of said fragrance. So keep that in mind too, especially if it's a established scent. The real thing might be cheaper than the artisan version,
Yeah.
or like Jared mentioned too, there are clones and dupes within the world of fragrance, which usually do the job better. And
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Armoff. If you see the brand Armoff, they have some great dupes of established scents. So they're like $40 and under, oftentimes.
Yeah.
And Phil asks, "What do you guys think of solid colognes?"
I'm personally
Thoughts?
not a fan. I haven't found they perform differently. They've got kind of a different purpose, right? So they're really good at like your own personal scent bubble.
Sure.
So you put them on and it's very close to you. So if want your intimate partner when with you, that kind of thing, but you're not going to walk in a room and have someone say, "Oh, that's an awesome fragrance." Like, it doesn't project like that. The other thing I've found with solid clones is they don't evolve. They're kind of linear. So what they are is what they're going to be from the moment you put them on until an hour later. They kind of stay that scent. Where if you're using like an EDT or an EDP, they have that opening. They evolve. So
More of a journey.
yeah, I've kind of shied away from the solid clone. Similar with the fragrance oils, I was into them when I first started because it was a nice, cheap way to try a fragrance. But
Sure.
now that I've like got a few more fragrances in my collection, like, yeah, it's different. It smells the same, but it doesn't smell the same.
It has, like you said, it has a specific use. And then after trying that medium, you understand some of the shortcomings from it. And I'm pretty much on board with everything Jared said. Solid clones aren't really for me. They're great. I think some people like that. They don't want something screaming out loud. They like to have to smell nice within their personal bubble, and I think that's totally fine. But they're not something that I'm actively seeking. I think there's a little bit of like a throwback nostalgia. There's something a little old school,
Mhm.
kitschiness to it. So I think that's why some people really like solid colognes. That's cool.
Yeah, it definitely has a use case. Like, and if
Yeah.
that's kind of what you're going for, awesome. It's a good way to try a fragrance for the first time. It's a good way to have a close scent to you. It's a good way to travel, right? If you don't want
Yes.
to carry an EDT or
Great point.
something in your luggage, you can carry a small solid clone piece, and you're good with that. So, there's a lot of use cases that, yeah, for sure. But for me, I just haven't had that many use cases for it.
Well, hope you found this topic interesting. Feel free to leave suggestions for future topics, as there's a lot there's a lot of things to explore. It's wet shaving. People wouldn't think so, but there are. So thank you guys so much. Jared, thank you again. Hope you guys have an excellent weekend. Take care now.
Take care, right?